So first, parents, please do not worry, do not stress. It's not too late. When it's too late, this is when you know it's too late. It's when you allowed them to pick the colleges without considering any of the ROI. They get accepted, and now you have to look at them and tell them, I'm sorry, we can't afford it. That's the only time it's too late. So what does that mean?
Welcome to the Life Coaching for Mompreneurs podcast, where you will learn simple solutions to win at work without losing at home. Hi, my name is Martine Williams, and I'm your host and CEO, your Chief Encouragement Officer. And this podcast is your one-stop shop to creating a burnout-proof life and business by elevating your clarity, confidence, and courage. Friends, it's time to say goodbye to being the yes girl, to procrastinating on your goals and living in overwhelm. And it's time to say hello to creating healthy boundaries, healthy mindsets, and healthy habits so that you can achieve work-life harmony. Your next breakthrough starts here. This is the Life Coaching for Mompreneurs podcast. Let's do this. Hey friends, and welcome back to the show. I'm Martine Williams, your host and your CEO, your Chief Encouragement Officer. In today's episode, we are continuing the conversation with Shellee Howard on college ready. I mean, it's such a robust topic, and we are covering all the questions that I could think of that I had, and diving into the topics and busting myths about scholarships and funding and all the things that go into being college ready, and the conversations to have with your children. And as someone who has my last child getting ready to go into this season, even if you feel like it's too late, even if you think you're behind, Shellee has some amazing things for you in this episode too. So I want to reintroduce, or not reintroduce, but re-invite you to this conversation with Shellee Howard. Let's go. So I know the question that is probably, when they see the title of this episode, the primary question they're going to have is, how do we get the money?
Sure.
Like, what is that process? The scholarships, the financial aid, again, it's just so much, Shellee, and it's just really hard to wrap your brain around what's the first step, the second step, and then like what's the best route to go to get that. If we don't qualify, which sounds like there's just more we need to learn about that, because that's not necessarily true. But I know there's probably a lot to process with that, but how do you send your student to college without going into debt? Like, what are those ways that they can simplify that process and get more money?
Yeah, so we could do a whole nother episode on that, but I'm going to briefly touch on how we do that, because everybody says, how did your son get into Harvard and graduate without debt? Like, it's impossible.
Right.
And so I just like to let them know that it really is about the knowledge. I want you to put in your mind for a moment, college is a business. Okay. Instead of an emotional attachment, my child got into la 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 la. Okay, just put that aside for a moment and stay focused on, I'm the businesswoman and college is a business. Now, are you ready to negotiate? Oh, yes, you are. Like, you have a whole different mindset.
Yeah.
Now you are going to advocate for your family because it's a business. And so here's how it works. Step one is you start early. By middle school, we charge the same price for a student to start in middle school, same as if they started their senior year. We incentivize people to start early and do it gently. Okay. So starting early, then what we're focused on is, how do we help your child be the best version of them? And then you ask, well, wait a minute, as a mama, isn't that exactly what we're trying to do?
Yeah.
But the thing is we're so close to it, and we're doing everything we can. What I get to do is I get to lean in and really help listen. Who do they think they are? Who do other people think they are? Who do they want to be? And what does all of that mean? Then we help them to do community service that they're passionate about, step into leadership roles that maybe feel a little uncomfortable, do extracurriculars to see, do I like this or do I not? And then we start to put a whole strategic plan together. If a student doesn't really love school, then
Mhm.
putting them in all AP classes is a terrible idea,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But if they get through school
Mhm.
because they have these clubs, organizations, sports opportunities,
Mhm.
then we need to balance what does that look like. So it's really student focused is bucket one.
Okay.
As we're raising them up being their best version, that's one. Step two, now we're listening, we're watching, and we're building as we go. Colleges are going to ask for at least 10 activities, honors, and awards. The University of California system asks for 20.
Wow.
If your child does nothing but plays games on their computer or cell phone, it is going to be a very frustrating situation at your home. So the second pillar is we help them to find their fit, their social fit. You're only as good as those you hang around with,
Right.
right? That's a
Right.
business idea. Number two, we're looking for the academic fit. Do they want to be the big fish in the small sea or the small fish in the big sea,
Mhm.
right? What
Yeah.
is their greatness? And then we start to talk about the family financial house. Where are the assets held? There are assets that the FAFSA does not look at, and I can tell you what they are. There are assets they do look at.
Mhm.
The number one thing is do not put any money in your child's name, period. Period. That will sink your ship so fast. So understanding the financial and how the middle bucket goes, that's number two. And then finally, the third is picking the right colleges.
Yeah.
Out of all that I'm going to tell your listeners, listen in on this one. If your child says, I want to go to UC Santa Barbara, and you're like, awesome school, why? And they said, have you seen the view from the dorms? You're thinking, well, yeah, but why do you want to go there? And I
Yeah.
just told you.
Yeah.
So when a child is going for a football program, a basketball program, a sorority program, that shouldn't be forefront. That should be after we look at the academic fit, the financial fit, and the social fit is the nice bow on the package.
Yeah.
So having reach schools, the dream, comfort schools, good fit, safety schools, huge money.
Mhm.
Okay. Now we apply, we get in, and we start doing financial negotiations and reconsiderations. We play them like you would buying a home. Well, this home over here has this. And are you starting to follow me where
Yeah. Yeah.
it's really a
Hmm.
business mindset?
Yeah, for sure.
Because your child, unfortunately, needs them, but they also need your tuition.
Right. Right. Oh
So it
yeah.
is a business transaction. And if you
Right.
treat it as such, now I will tell you, very few, if any other college consultants do it this way.
Hmm. Hmm.
I did it this way because I was a single mom going through it, and I knew $63,000 a year was a pipe dream for
Right.
me and
Yeah.
my family. So I had to figure it out.
Yeah.
And that, like you said earlier, that was my why. I had to not only figure out how to get him accepted, but figure out how are we going to get it paid for.
Yeah. 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 That's a process. I love it though, but it's because it's so clear and it's like I can feel like the anxiety, if someone was to come in, it's like, okay, there's a plan, there's a clear plan. And I think for some, also just that shift of this is a business transaction and to think about it in that way because you do get wrapped up. And I know for a lot of the kids, it is about the social
Mhm.
that's the aspect they're going for. Like we live in the SEC schools, and so like people want to go where the football program is, right?
Yep.
And there's the SEC and the ACC schools that they want to go to. So that requires a mindset shift too for the student, and they're probably not going to listen to us when it comes to that because we know nothing as the parent. So for you to be able to talk to them through that, it's not that the social part is an important piece,
It
especially if
is.
they're a very social child, but
Mhm.
it's looking at all of the points and
Right,
all
like
of
you
the
would a
reasons.
home,
Yeah.
right? You wouldn't just
Hmm.
look at the front door. You
Hmm.
would look, does this have enough room for our family? Like there are some things that the emotional side it needs to be part of, but it shouldn't be the leading force
Right.
in making the decision. Maybe choosing schools. I mean, I have an example. My second, her dream school was University of Alabama. And we're
Mm-hmm.
from Southern California. Now I have students all over the world, but I looked at her and I said, why in the world would you go to Alabama when we have great schools here in California? She goes, Roll Tide, Mom.
Like, duh, mom. Of course I want to go there. Yeah.
Right. And I said, well, the only way I'm going to pay out of state tuition is if you can go for free. And so she did.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's a conversation that needs to be had. I was talking to my husband about this because my youngest, his best friend lives in Florida. And so he had in his mind that he wanted to go to Florida and go to the school where he's going, where his best friend is going to be playing baseball for this university. I'm like, buddy, that's like having a job. When you play for a university, like it's a job. Like he's not going to have a lot of free time to start this fishing charter business that you think y'all are going to do. So I'm trying not to poo-poo on your party, but right, moving to Florida for college out of state. And I told my husband, I'm like, I think he just needs to understand the numbers here and really understand like this is what we have. And so if that's what you want to do, you're going to have to meet us in the middle, or you're going to have to like do your part. And that might be the deciding factor for him. Maybe he doesn't want it as bad as he thinks he wants it when he realizes he's changed his mind. Thank goodness he's back to in-state where he wants to go. But that's a really powerful point to actually have that conversation. Okay, we're great if that's what you want to do, but here's the reality of the situation, right? And I think they own it more when they actually work for it too, and they make that decision, knowing all of the details and what's going to be required of them.
And
Yeah.
I also tell parents this, that it is a misconception that it's cheaper to stay in state than
Okay.
go out of state. Many, 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 many schools. You can get in and out of a small private school in another state that's very generous,
Mm-hmm.
quicker, less money, one-to-one. Like there's so many things that parents are not privy to. And
Yeah.
I can show them at this school, the retention rate is this. This percentage of the class graduates in 4 years. This percentage takes 6 years to get a 4-year degree. I
Mhm.
don't know about you parents, but I don't want to pay 6 years for a
Oh, definitely not. I was on the 4.5 year plan. So I was a December graduate. So
Yeah.
yeah, but 6 years, no, not interested in that. Yeah, not
And
interested.
nor is most students, even if they want to go to medical school or law school, because now they took on more debt and time is clicking. And
Yeah.
so they're like, that's a bad idea. And to that point, we help students who do want to go to graduate school to think about they need to be at the top 5% of their undergraduate class to
Mhm.
hit that next level. And if you go into debt undergrad, are you really going to want to take on debt as a grad student?
Right. Yeah, probably not.
The
Probably
problem
not.
is, parents, I recommend playing this really fun game. Do I have a moment to share it with your listeners?
Sure. Yes, go ahead. Hey, friend, can we talk about your 5 to 9 for a second? The hours after the hustle of your day winds down, when you're finally able to exhale, unplug, and hopefully breathe again? This time matters. And if you're anything like me, you want that time to feel like a reset, not more stress. That's why I'm excited to partner with Cozy Earth, a brand that's on mission to transform your 5 to 9 into the most comfortable part of your day. Now, listen, I don't promote just anything on this podcast. You know how sometimes you hear about a brand over and over and you think, okay, it can't be that good. Well, that was me with Cozy Earth. Friends of mine kept raving about their buttery soft sheets and breathable loungewear. And I'm not talking once or twice, multiple friends over the course of a few months, all saying the same thing. You've got to try Cozy Earth. So when the opportunity came to partner with them here on the podcast, I finally got to see what the hype was all about. And let me tell you, the hype is real. When I tell you these sheets are next level soft, I mean next level. I'm talking luxurious, breathable, and cool to the touch, even when the house feels warm. I wake up feeling more refreshed and honestly, like I've been sleeping in a boutique hotel every night. And don't get me started on their loungewear. I wear it to unwind, to journal, to watch my favorite show, and sometimes even to work from home because who says you can't be productive and pampered? This isn't just about sheets or PJs, it's about creating a sanctuary at home. And if you've been telling yourself you'll upgrade one day, this is your moment, friend, because you get a 100-night trial and a 10-year warranty on all bedding. So if you're not obsessed, you can send it back, no questions asked. But spoiler alert, you won't. So use code Martine at checkout to get 40% off their best-selling sheets, pajamas, and more at cozyearth.com. That's right, 40% off. You deserve this kind of comfort, friend, because sanctuary shouldn't be safe for vacations. It starts at home, and your sanctuary awaits at Cozy Earth.
It is super fun. Okay, so there's only two rules of the game. You're sitting somewhere without distraction. So in other words, it's a phone-free meal or it's no distraction. And it only takes about 15 minutes, so it's not hugely traumatic for them. And you say there's two rules. We're going to play a game. There's no rolling of the eyes, and there's no saying it's a stupid idea to each other or to yourself. Here's how the game is played. Parent, you have to keep a poker face, straight face the whole time, no gasping. Oh, like, I'm going to do any of that. And here's the thing. You say to child number one, the oldest goes first, and you say, if I gave you $1 million cash, if they are not smiling, you're in trouble. Okay. Then you go up 2 million and now they're smiling. But I always say, for the sake of numbers, I'm going to give you $1 million. And I gave it to you in cash, but you have 24 hours to spend it or you have to give it all back to me. Go. And
Wow.
they're like, I don't, I don't know how I would spend $1 million. And I'm like, hmm. Yeah, interesting, isn't it? And then I have students who are like, well, I'd buy a yacht and I'd invite all my friends and we'd fly there on our Lear jet and then we'd have our own home that, you know what I mean, is bigger,
Yeah.
bigger, bigger. And you're like, okay, a little financial literacy will be helpful for that child. And then I've
Yeah.
had one student in 17 years say to me, well, I would save up, I would buy a fixer-upper. I would then work really hard, do it all myself by YouTube video, and then I'd sell it. And then I'd take that money and I'd reinvest it. And then I would just flip homes. And I said, what do your parents do for a living? True, true, true. He listens to his parents for sure.
Yeah.
So this game is super powerful. And if your child said, well, I'd buy a new vehicle, then I say, great, what kind? Well, you drive a Mercedes. I would like a Mercedes. Great. How much of that $1 million is it going to cost you? And they're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Or I want to live next door to my parents.
Mhm.
Great. Well, how much will that home cost you? I don't know. I mean, we get down into like food in the fridge.
Right.
And here's the disconnect. We provide so well for our children,
Mm.
they don't know what it's going to cost. And therefore, when I tell them that the school's going to cost $200,000, they're like, oh, that sounds pretty reasonable
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
because they don't understand the impact of what that means to their future. As adults, we do. And maybe you don't want to have that conversation. You can have it a zillion different ways, but it's a fun way to get in tune with, do they even understand
Mm.
the return on investment of the education? If you want to be a botanist, you do not need to spend $100,000 a year to go to NYU,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Does not make sense.
Yeah.
This is the conversations I get to have with your children because they know that we're just having fun and we're just creating something amazing for them.
Right.
The hardest part is not commenting like, I'm not paying for an art degree.
Yeah.
So, it is challenging to be the big person in the room, but if
Yeah.
you really encourage yourself and your spouse or significant other, it can be powerful eye opener. Some kids are ready in about eighth grade.
Mhm.
Other kids are a little less mature and it might be closer to junior year.
Yeah. Yeah. We've tried to just a little bit, we go out to dinner and they see how much the dinner, like, wow, and like my husband's like, I just want you to see this is for four people. This is, what it costs to go to Outback or to go to Carrabba's or just not even like a fine dining place or when we go to a hotel, like just little ways, to do that. But I love having that conversation, just kind of seeing what's twirling around up there and what is the reality that they hold right now. So, one last question that I want to ask, because I know there's probably a lot of listeners, including myself, where I didn't start in middle school. I have a son who's getting ready to go into his senior year, and it feels like I missed the boat a little bit, like I should have started sooner. And so there's probably a lot of people who are feeling that way. They're listening right now. So what is the process for someone like that who's not coming in at an earlier age? If either they want to come in and work with you, or they're not ready to invest in that and they're like, okay, but what do I do now? I didn't spend all this time preparing my student. So what do you
Right.
have to say for the parent that's feeling that way right now?
So first, parents, please do not worry, do not stress. It's not too late. When it's too late, this is when you know it's too late. It's when you allowed them to pick the colleges without considering any of the ROI. They get accepted, and now you have to look at them and tell them, I'm sorry, we can't afford it. That's the only time it's too late. So, what does that mean? I get students all the way up until that point, and even
Mhm.
at that point, and I have to say, I'm so sorry, I can't take you. But here's the thing right now, for your particular family, is critical. Why? You haven't picked the college list yet.
Mm,
That is the most critical piece of all of this because I can patch holes in their application or their essay. We can totally do that right now.
mhm.
And they're way more mature. And so we can move quicker. I call it the fire hose approach. Like, I got to give it all to you.
Yeah.
Hold on. We're going to do it smiling, but we're going to do it quick. And I'm honest with them, but I say, you know what? You're so mature and you now know you like this, you don't like this. This
Yeah.
is okay, this is not okay. And I can work way faster with that than a young eighth grader who is like, well, I don't know, I haven't tried that yet. And
Right. Yeah.
so my encouragement is being mindful of these seven things: their grade point average, their test scores, their community service with passion, their leadership, their extracurriculars, their letters of recommendation, and their essays. You need to get a pulse. Where are they at? What are they missing?
Okay.
That's critical. Now you know I need Shellee urgently, or you know what? Maybe I just need a 30-minute quick discovery call to see what I can do to patch the holes. And
Right.
for listeners, I will be offering at the end of the show a 30 minutes with me to see if they are college ready. And that's so powerful because as part of my mission is to help 1 million families get in and graduate without debt. That
Mhm.
is my service to my community
Right.
because it is not as dire straits as one might think.
Mhm.
It's just not knowing the rules of the game. So knowing the rules before you pick the schools
Right.
is power right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the critical piece.
It kind of reminds me, I love all of that. Like I'm like in my head, I'm like, check, check, maybe not check. As you were listing all of those things out. But it also reminds me of how the market even is today. Like so many people have already done their research. I think about my husband's business before they even walk in to buy the mower or the blower, they've already done their research either on his website or they've Googled some things. And so they're coming in so much more informed. And so they do negotiate with him a little bit more because they have the research. And so it's kind of that same concept here with the college is, are we doing enough of our research? And like you said, have the knowledge to where you can be in that position to have that conversation and do have that negotiation with the right school for the student that, with everything in alignment. So that's a really powerful mindset shift for people to have is to think about it in that way. You Google everything, you research everything before you purchase. Why are we not doing that with colleges? What is happening, Shellee? Why are we not doing that with colleges?
It's because it's overwhelming. If
Yeah.
you Google college admissions, it is honestly the scariest thing ever.
Yeah.
But I also tell parents, you wouldn't Google, my thumb hurts because it's going to tell you your thumb has cancer.
It's so true.
You have to be
It's falling
really,
off in 24 hours.
right? You have to be really, really careful
Mhm.
of, there's a lot of misinformation out there. And
Yeah.
that's why I've written 2 best-selling books because I want families to have foundation that's correct
Yeah.
and then pivot off of that. For your listeners, I have one of my newest bestseller is the College Admissions Plan Simplified. It's 99 cents right now on Amazon for your listeners.
Okay.
It's the basic foundation. It's like if you do nothing else,
Hmm.
you need to do this and you're
Yeah.
gonna be okay, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I think everybody should have this opportunity. And we're busy, we're working, we're parents. Like it doesn't get much more crazy than being a mom,
Right. Right. True. True.
right?
And all God's people said amen to
Yes.
that.
And that's why I simplified the process and made it like you could pick up the book for one chapter, put it down, pick it up, put it down,
Mhm.
because that's the life I live, as I'm sure you do. We're
Yeah.
dropping them here and there and just trying to hold it all together.
Right.
And
Right.
it's really about knowledge. It's like anything else, buying a home, buying a car. The more you know, the better decision you're going to make.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Well, we could talk for a whole nother hour because it is such a robust topic, but you gave us some really great information. So can you tell the listeners where they can find more out about College Ready and you and working with you? And we'll put links to everything in the show notes, but if you could just audibly tell them, that would be amazing.
Sure. So the easiest place to find out free resources, I'm big on free
Yeah.
resources, is go to College Ready Plan, PLAN
Okay.
dot com. Okay. And in there is so much free stuff. And it's my podcast and it's resources. So that's an easy one. And then if you're like, you know what, I really want 30 minutes of Shellee's time for free, go
Yeah.
to collegereadyplan.info. And
Okay.
that is a gift to your listeners where they can go on and get a complimentary 30 minutes with myself where I can let them know here's some holes in the boat.
Hmm.
Here's what you need to do to fix them. And that's the gift. And then my first book is How to Send Your Student to College Without Losing Your Mind or Your Money. On Amazon as
Great
well.
title. Great title. That's what everyone wants. That's some good marketing there.
For sure. So I'm here to serve your families and just know parents, it's not as crazy and scary and all of that out there. It really is quite fun if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. That's a great note to end on. Well, thank you so much for coming on and taking your time. I hope you're ready because the calendar is going to get full with all of those 30-minute calls. I feel sure it's going to be ringing off the hook. But thank you for providing that. That's a really generous gift. And people can't see you, but I can see in you your passion for this. And I appreciate that. And as someone who is passionate also about the work that I do, I think it's just important. So thank you so much for living out that passion and being willing to go first and learn this stuff for people like me who just not interested. So I appreciate that and that you took the time to come on the podcast today. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right, friends, I will catch you on the next episode. Well, that's a wrap, friends. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. I really hope it met you right where you are and gave you some encouragement for your day. Could you do me the biggest favor and leave me a rating and review? Seriously, it's the best way for you to support the show. And while you're there, be sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode. Thanks again. And until next time, I am believing in you always.